become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. We are happy to provide this service for the community. Questions have been collected from the League and community members before this forum and were screened for duplication, clarity, and appropriateness to the office being discussed. The candidates have been provided a couple of questions before this forum to help them prepare, while other questions will be new to them. This forum is between the two candidates seeking to be the DeKalb County State's Attorney, the two candidates seeking to be the DeKalb County Circuit Clerk, and the two candidates seeking to be the DeKalb County Coroner. The candidates have agreed to abide by the rules set forth prior to this forum. They will each present a 2-minute introductory statement. Then questions will be asked and each candidate will have up to 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Closing statements will be a minute. There will be timer signs on the screen and I will ask you candidates to adhere to the time limits. When you see the stop sign, you may finish your sentence, but we ask you to conclude. So let's start with the state's attorney candidates, Rick Amato and Anna Wilhelmi. Rick Amato, would you please give your opening statement? 2 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Rick Amato. I'm the DeKalb County State's Attorney. I've had the privilege of serving in this role since November 1st of 2015. When I came into this role, my goal was to be an office that I'm proud of as well as respected. I believe as we're finishing our first 4 years, we're achieving that goal. When I first ordered of business was to address the bill. In 2016, there was a rash of crimes coming through DeKalb County. We're still unfortunately facing 2020. We were able to increase the talent of the office as far as experience to be able to meet the types of challenges and these challenging cases head on with a complete team. After the team was in place, we worked on programs and policies. One of the first programs I put in was a felony review program. That felony review program was our attorneys working alongside law enforcement officers who were seeking to charge felonies against the defendant. Our attorneys would work with the law enforcement officers, determine the appropriate charge, determine the probable cause, and to determine if we could maintain the burdens of proof that we need to do in a criminal case. That's seen about 100 to 200 cases a year reduced based on reviewing. Next, we worked on programs of building recidivism, as well as getting low-level offenders in the justice system. We did that by doing the felony diversion program as well as a veterans program. I also worked with the DeKalb Police to start a HOPE drug rehabilitation program where those who are suffering with addictions could come into the police station, turn their drugs in, and be able to seek treatment immediately without any charges from our office. As we're getting into the second term, we're still going to focus on violent crimes. We're going to work with our patrol officers to get a countywide protocol for domestic violence. The better our charges, the better our cases for domestic violence, the more likelihood our victim will be able to get through the trauma with their children or their children and get to hope. We're going to continue working on programs and policies that get low-level offenders out of our programs or out of our court system, and we're going to continue making our community safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna Wilhelmi, your opening statement, please.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Anna Wilhelmi and I am running for DeKalb County State's Attorney. I am a practicing attorney. I've been practicing for 24 years. I live on the southern tip of DeKalb County on a farm with my horses and dogs and chickens. I have extensive criminal law background experience, anywhere from traffic up to home invasions. I also have experience in orders of protection, juvenile delinquency, and abuse neglect, as well as parental termination of rights cases. I've also argued before the Illinois Supreme Court twice, as well as briefed for the Illinois Supreme Court and the Second Appellate District. I went to NIU for my bachelor's degree, which was in sociology with an emphasis in criminology, as well as my law degree I obtained from NIU as well. So I am very passionate about criminal justice reform. I believe that a person's status pre-trial, when you're innocent until proven guilty, should not be based on whether or not you are poor. I believe that police should be held accountable for wrongful acts, and that way we could build community trust. I also believe that we need to end mass incarceration. We have the highest incarceration rate in the world by far, except for Venezuela. And we need to change that through alternate programs. So that is what I would like to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So let's start with questions. And the first question goes to Anna Wilhelmi. What ethical reforms, if any, are needed in the court system?
Well, I think that we need to ethically look at systemic racial bias in the court system, all the way from policing to sentencing. Okay, studies show that there is bias from policing in the street all the way up through sentencing and mass incarceration of Black and brown people. So I think that is one issue that absolutely is urgent and has to be addressed. I think the second issue ethically is that we need to address the when a police officer has alleged to have committed a wrongful act, that we look at the relationship between the state's attorney and the police, and that we appoint a special prosecutor when we feel that there is a conflict of interest, which seems may be inherent when you're working with a police department for a long time as the state's attorney. So those are two of the big ethical issues that I have.
Thank you. Rick Amato, same question.
Thank you. When I first came in the office, made a couple notes. Number one, the first elected official for DeKalb County State's Attorney was 1888. I also noticed there was no mission statement for the office. So prior to pretty much every other program I put in, we developed an office mission. We only have a minute to talk, but the mission starts with these three words: to ensure justice. That's what our office does day in and day out. The 12 other attorneys in my office, including myself, look at the evidence. We review evidence, we work alongside our victims, our law enforcement, and we ensure the safety of our community. Can law enforcement be better? Can the criminal justice system be better? Every day could be better. And we work towards that every day, improving our policies, improving our offerings, and making our community safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Amato, since the state's attorney coordinates the Children's Advocacy Center Advisory Board, what do you see as the most pressing issue for the state's attorney's office in prosecuting child abuse cases?
Right now, because of the COVID pandemic, it's making sure we are reaching these children. For now 7 months, many of these children have been without constant teacher contact or activities with coaches or anything where there's going to be outcries. So we really need to double down and be more concentrating on these offenses. We have to know that they're happening. They're not coming out to us because we are stuck with e-learning. We're stuck with being sheltered in place. So the biggest issue is going to be finding these children, making sure that they know they have places to come to, whether it's the CAC, whether it's Safe Passage, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's our office. We need to make sure we're out there for these children.
Thank you. Anna Wilhelmi, same question.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
Sure. Since the state's attorneys coordinate the Children's Advocacy Center Advisory Board, what do you see as the most pressing issue for the state's attorney's office in prosecuting child abuse cases?
I would probably say that you have to be delicate with children as far as testimony. You have to make sure that they are protected when they are going through the court process. I really think that there should be a vertical prosecution process as well as a vertical court process, so that people children who are subject to abuse as well as victims of domestic violence, they have the same core people that they are working with, so they are not exposed to too many people in the court system. So they have one person or a team that they are working with throughout the court system, as well as in the judiciary. I think that even though I'm not in control of the judiciary, that it would be a good idea to have a kind of a vertical prosecution or a vertical system where, you have child support, you have family, you have abuse, neglect, orders of protection, and potentially domestic violence cases, the same family having the same people overviewing their case.
Thank you. Anna Wilhelmi, what should be the role of the state's attorney in reforming our police system?
Well, I think that the role of the state's attorney is really critical at this point, just because we are the chief and law enforcement officer, right? So we need to take a look at the data, which is there, that there is this systemic bias, there is excessive use of force used. So we have to prosecute police who use excessive use of force. Other police officers do not want those kinds of officers that have the judgment to not use force when they do not have to. Okay, so we need to address that, and it takes a firm hand to make sure that people do not get away with, officers do not get away with wrongful acts, and that includes systemic violence or systemic bias in stopping individuals. We are over policing the Black and brown community. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Amato, same question, state's attorney's role in reforming our police system.
Thank you. The state's attorney is the chief legal officer of the county. We are responsible for many things that go on with our courthouse, including the conduct of our staff, including the conduct of our officers. We work alongside these officers. When there's times of trouble, we help review policies and procedures, and that's been done since this summer. We've reviewed use of force policies. We've approved and worked with body camera policies. We're working alongside to, again, continue to improve what we're doing in our criminal justice system and not turning a blind eye that there are mistakes, there are problems that need to be corrected. But that role as a state's attorney is to be the leader of that. Make sure we're doing trainings, bring in trainings. There's been numerous trainings that my office has brought in just for law enforcement that were on different topics. And you bet during these next few years, there'll be more trainings and opportunities to improve our skills, as well as to keep us on the cutting edge of taking care of our culture.
Thank you. Rick Amato, name something specific that the state's attorney's office could do better and how to do it.
We could be faster in resolving cases. It's been a top priority since I came into office. There's many factors that go into trying to move cases through the system quicker. There is issues when it comes to having better charges. So we did that with the felony review program. We have better charges from the get-go. We've also cut 100 to 200 cases per year. In time, we're going to need more prosecutors. When you have these additional programs that come into place like body camera, you need time. You need to spend your time reviewing these body camera footages, reports, and making sure that these are done correctly, thoroughly, but also efficiently, so we're able to move our cases. Time lags are terrible. Right now with COVID, we haven't done a jury trial since March, and that is going to be very detrimental going forward, that we need to get back to doing trials. We need to make sure people are receiving justice and justice timely.
Thank you. Anna Wilhelmi, same question.
I think that the state's attorney's office needs to do better in evaluating individual cases for what the disposition should be. We need to look at the individual and look at things differently. So, if we're presenting prison or jail sentences, we need to look at the fact that we want to look at, is this person unsafe? Like, is this a safety issue? If not, what are the alternatives? So we need to look at the criminal dispositions differently, so that we can work to keep people in our community and make them better. So it's an attitude that has to change. And that is what I'm looking forward to. So you start with the individuals first.
Thank you. Anna Wilhelm, what is the most needed reform in the bail system?
The most needed reform in the bail system is to eliminate cash bail. Cash bail, it's not right that a person is kept in custody, innocent until proven guilty, because they cannot afford to get out of custody. Okay, so if you are poor, you are punished by staying in jail. You lose your job, potentially. Your family is separated. You potentially lose your housing. So it is really critical, especially right now, but it's really critical that we not incarcerate people pre-trial when they are not found guilty, if they are not a safety risk or if they are not a flight risk.
Thank you. Rick Amato, what's the most needed reform in the bail system?
DeKalb County's been at the leading edge of bond reform. Going back to late 2015, the bond reform system began coming through DeKalb County Courthouse. We, as a state's attorney, have to always keep our eye on victim safety and community safety. And while we've moved cases, with many cases being recognizance release or very low bonds, there's always a healthy tension with our office to make sure we're protecting our victims, as well as protecting our community. So I think the bond reform statute, as it's moving through, I think needs to keep an eye on keeping our community safe and keeping the victim away from predators or their abuser if they're released from prison or released from county jail.
Thank you. Rick Amato, how would you maximize cooperation between the state's attorney and law enforcement agencies in the county?
I believe we have a highly cooperative environment right now. Everybody has their role. There's no secret that the state's attorney is the prosecutor. We're the attorneys on it, and they're law enforcement. They are the cops. But you need to work together. You need to have a healthy respect to be able to do programs that we've been able to do. There has to be a trust and a working relationship that allows our police to have the comfort that we are having the community's best interest in mind. There's cases, but there's protecting the community and protecting our victims, as well as improvements. And so the office would work with the state attorney's office and law enforcement is probably at an all-time high as far as cooperation and working well together. And that's a must for doing any types of productive reforms, as well as new policies that make a difference in everybody's lives.
Anna Wilhelmi, same question.
Yes, I believe that the state's attorney's office and the law enforcement need to work side by side. But it must be clear that the state's attorney's office is not the arm of the police. Okay, so the police, the law enforcement have to understand that the state's attorney's office works for the people, so that we are a separate office. And then we work side by side to make our community safe. And there's multiple ways to do that. And the first thing is to build community trust. And we are lacking community trust, especially with the Black community, the BIPOC community, the Black, Indigenous, and people of color community. And it's clear from the, the protests and the angst and the tension and the trauma that the Black and brown community is experiencing right now, that they do not trust law enforcement. And that needs to change, and I can help with that.
Thank you. Anna Wilhelmi, what alternatives to incarceration would you like available in DeKalb County?
Well, we have a pretrial diversion program, which is excellent, and I want to expand on that. We also have a drug court treatment program, and I want to expand on that. We also have a mental health court and a veterans court. I want to expand on those programs, and I don't even know if there's anyone in our veterans court right now, but we want to make sure that these programs are known and available to our people. So we want to put those in the forefront. I also want to have a victim offender mediation program under an umbrella of restorative justice. So I want to have a community connection collaborative, okay? So that we can have a mediation program. So for, property crimes and things like that, where we can work things out, right, amongst community members, that we do so, okay? Because that's a really important part of justice.
Thank you. Rick Amato, what alternatives to incarceration would you like available in DeKalb County?
Prior to becoming state's attorney, I had an office in DeKalb County, and I did lots of cases in DeKalb County, but I also got out to our neighboring counties, Winnebago, Boone, Ogle, Kendall, Kane. And I found that it's difficult. The defendants are not likely to go into prison or in the Illinois Department of Corrections in DeKalb County. I can't speak the same for our neighboring counties. DeKalb County has always been a place where we're able to work cases through without jumping right to prison. Right now, our prosecutors have 7, 8, 9 different types of dispositions that have nothing to do with incarceration, starting with felony diversion, first-timer probation, conditional discharge, regular probation, special drug probation, the treatment courts. There is many options that are out there. The problem with incarceration comes based on criminal behavior that has a lengthy criminal history, as well as statutes that require prison. And some go without speaking. Murders, sex assaults, shootings. These are mandatory prison cases, and those have to be prosecuted with a prison sentence in mind.
Thank you. Rick Amato, what is the most pressing need in the state's attorney's office?
Domestic violence is the biggest pressing need. Daily, we have 1, 2, 5, 6 or more new domestic violence cases that are reaching our bond call. Behind these domestic violence cases is a victim. Oftentimes with that victim, there's children. These are breaking down these families. These are leaving imprints of trauma on these children that will be carried forward to generations. We need to continue to work to have better cases. We have 2 personnel right now that spend their entire time dealing with domestic violence cases. And with the amount of cases coming in, especially in the last 12 months, probably about the 6 months prior to COVID, domestic violence has skyrocketed in our community. And so we need to make sure we put the resources with our office as well as our partners out there, our law enforcement, our Safe Passage, our Family Service Agency, and all of our other agencies to make sure we're working together to deal with the systematic problem of domestic violence.
Thank you. Anna Wilhelmi, what's the most pressing need in the state's attorney's office?
Thank you. I agree that domestic violence is definitely a pressing need, especially as it is going up. But very pressing is the systemic bias, the racial bias that is in our criminal justice system. It is urgent, and it cannot take the back seat anymore. So we have to address it. People are traumatized. They are in the streets, and they need a change. So we have to address that issue. And it starts with the over-policing of our Black and Brown community, okay? And it goes all the way through to sentencing. So we have to evaluate the data. We have to look at it when we have to change what's going on in our system.
Thank you. Anna Wilhelmi, what is the most pressing need? What experiences outside of practicing law make you the best candidate?
I think that I am the best candidate. I have a sociology background and a criminology background. I've studied criminology and I've studied people, and I have an extensive background in studying race, and I really think that I make the best candidate because of that. When it's merged with my law degree and my criminal law background, I think that makes me the best candidate.
Thank you. Rick Amato, same question.
When you're an attorney, especially a prosecutor, you use every inch of your life experience to be a good prosecutor, to seek justice. There is a story behind every person, and that life experience, whether it's from living within our community, having a family within our community, having a practice that was in our community, it all adds into serving. And the parts that make up a person, for me, it's being that I've been part of the community since 2003, when I came out to DeKalb County as a chance to be an assistant state's attorney for the DeKalb County State's Attorney's Office. It's knowing the community and having relationships that's beyond the 4 walls of the courthouse, that's every day. And that could be where you're walking down the streets of DeKalb, whether you're down in Shabana, you're up in Kirkland, you know people. We have a small community and we have really good people. And it's knowing that knowledge and knowing how people work, act, think in our community. That's a huge asset to being the state's attorney.
Thank you. We're at our closing statement. So Anna Wilhelmi, would you give your 1-minute closing statement?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure. Again, my name is Anna Wilhelmi, and I am running for state's attorney. So in 2019, our Congressman Elijah Cummings from Maryland, he passed away. But before he did, he said, "What did we do to keep our democracy intact. So I am here to do my part to make sure that this criminal justice system is fair and just for everyone. So I am asking for your vote, and I thank you again so much.
Thank you. Rick Amato, your closing statement, please.
Back when I returned to the community in 2003, as a young attorney just starting, I had no idea what life had for me. When I came to DeKalb County, I met my wife. She's a fourth generation DeKalb County person. We opened a practice. We started a family. DeKalb County is, and I became state's attorney. DeKalb County is a great place to live, to work, to serve. When we've gone through the types of turmoil that we've seen this summer and the acknowledgement of what type of change needs to happen, it's distressing. It's distressing to hear the type of rage that's going on across the country and in our county. The best way to figure out what the future holds is to look at recent history. People need to look at the state's attorney's office and the type of results that we've gotten, how we go about doing our work, and the programs and policies that we've put into place that match actually the calls that are out there right now. We've been doing it for several years. There'll be more programs. There's more policies to come. There'll be more needs of serving what needs to get done to improve our system, but also to keep our community safe.
Thank you very much. This ends our section of the state's attorney's candidate, and let's move on to circuit court clerk. And our two candidates are RukishaCrawford and Lori Grubbs. So RukishaCrawford, would you like to start with your 2-minute opening statement?
Yes, and thank you. My name is RukishaCrawford, and I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago. I came to DeKalb because I wanted a better life for my son and I. I was able to obtain that by obtaining a master's degree in education, a master's degree in literacy, and my foundation was a bachelor's degree in early childhood education. I also serve on the county board on the Health and Human Service Committee, the Economic Development Committee, and I also serve as a representative for the county health department as well. I thank you for this opportunity to give my reason and platform of why I'm running for DeKalb County Circuit Clerk. One reason is to change mindsets of the county so that we can have a better, fair system with the judicial court system. I would like to create an effective, fair, and organized clerk system where that electronic processing is important. I like to hold the clerks accountable and build positive relationships within the clerk's office as well. I would like to make sure that we're valuing the community and the people that we serve, and that we are passionate for change and open to leadership. My values are being trustworthy, confident, and accurate with serving the public as well. I thank you for this opportunity to share my reasons and platform of serving and running on the circuit clerk. Thank you for this time.
Thank you. Lori Grubbs, your opening statement, please.
Yes, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and the DeKalb Public Library for hosting this event tonight. My name is Lori Grubbs, and I'm running to become the next circuit clerk for DeKalb County. I'm a lifelong resident of DeKalb. I was born and raised in DeKalb, graduated from DeKalb High School, and received my associate's degree from Kishwaukee Community College. I currently live in Sycamore with my husband and my 2 kids. I have worked at the circuit clerk's office for over the past 25 years. I have been the supervisor of the civil division for over the past 15 years. The role of the circuit clerk is to establish, maintain, and keep all court records. Over the past 25 years, I've had many responsibilities within the circuit clerk's office. Starting in a file room, moving on to clerking in courtrooms, various civil courtrooms, clerking jury trials, clerking for the chief judge, and also working at the front counter, assisting attorneys and the public file documents into civil cases. I work closely with the 2nd District Appellate Court, filing e-appeals. I've seen a lot of change in the circuit clerk's office over the past 25 years, and all of that change has been good, and I look forward to more change in the future. My goal as the next DeKalb County Circuit Clerk is to continue the strong tradition of public service, transparency, and access to justice for all who use the courts. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Grubbs, name something specific that the clerk's office could do better and how to do it.
Something specific that the clerk's office could do better would be to work on integration. I am very fortunate to work in an office that runs so efficiently because of the outstanding staff that's employed there today. Currently, the Civil Division in the Circuit Clerk's office is using a system called Odyssey e-filing system, also known as Tyler Technologies. It is a fully integrated system. My goal is to transition the Traffic and Criminal Division into this system. This process will make it the most efficient for keeping the court records. I would also like to expand on electronic business solutions as the Supreme Court allows, including, but not limited to, e-citations, e-orders, and e-warrants.
Thank you. RukishaCrawford, can you name something specific that the clerk's office could do better and how to do it?
Yes, one thing that clerks could do better is to maintain views on acts for the community, share concerns or issues, to process information efficiently, make sure that online images, court orders, making sure that the documents that report are entered into the system that are up to date, and it has the rumors of the courthouse. And so making sure that we are losing documentation when people are coming in to for the dates. Learning that when I'm meeting my residents, that they're learning that some of the court dates are off, that they're losing important documentation in the system, and something to focus on and take it very efficient and fair, so that people can, if you have a complaint in the system, you can go on that and create information. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. RukishaCrawford, what technology, if any, does the clerk's office most need to implement best practices?
I would agree that the electronic data processing system, where the MD of Hope Hill, she did it a little better, make sure it's efficient and that we have the online image for the residents' court system, that they pull up the app, images of documentations of court ticket and anything that they may need to, test in the court system. Also texting, be able to text if you have court date, if you have documentations and missing, be more savvy, to be honest, and to date with electoral data processing. I would like for the community to be able to have reviews for the court system, and clerks are working to hold accountability, to hold and to build positive relationships within the community, so that you have understanding of what's going on in the court system.
Thank you. Lori Grubbs, same question.
Could you repeat the question?
What technology, if any, does the clerk's office most need to implement best practices?
So from my experience of working in the clerk's office, we've had a lot of technology change. We are continually modifying our office. We are working right now with changing our online order protection forms so that they are up to date. The next thing would be moving, as I spoke about earlier, as the integration of the Traffic and Criminal Division into Tyler Technology, so that the documents, as soon as they're filed, they're immediately available in our case management system. I have worked on many different technology issues within our office, starting with scanning our documents back in 2009. We had paper records back then, and we started scanning all documents. And then we went back further. Anytime you want to come in and look at an older case, we can easily pull it up on the computer for you. I've worked with the appellate court on electronic e-appeals. I've also worked with, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori Grubbs,
Yes.
if your office got a 5% budget increase, what would you spend it on?
If the circuit clerk's office received a 5% increase, I would spend it on kiosks and public computer stations that would be used for obtaining court information, filing emergency order protections, and e-filing. With this increase, I would also include more training for court staff to better assist self-represented litigants. Working in the clerk's office, I've seen a substantial increase in the number of self-represented litigants who come to the courthouse every day. That is somebody who chooses not to hire an attorney and represent themselves. There's a fine line between legal advice and procedural information. Many individuals come into our office asking questions bordering on legal advice. The circuit clerk's office is prohibited by law from giving legal advice, but we are able to give procedural information.
Thank you. Rukisha Crawford, the same question.
Well, with that
You're
5% increase, I would make sure that we have the app that is working correctly. We have training involved. So excuse me? Can you hear me?
You have to speak a little bit louder. You seem to be breaking up. So if you can start again and we can hopefully hear you.
Okay. With the 5% increase, I plan to make sure that clerks properly trained with learning the system, the electronic data, and learning to implement app, and making sure that clerks paying attention to the reviews that we have on the app, along creating plan for involvement, for making sure that the documents are also correct, and making sure that the imaging is also, so spending money towards the programs to ensure that we have the correct imaging, texting, and reviews on the app, so that community can have access to the app, so that can include their concerns, issues, or share whatever disagreements or stations that they have, so they can learn the community how to better access circuit clerk office. Making sure that the public relationships also this target and create training for the system as well.
Thank you. Rukisha Crawford, if your office got a 5% budget decrease, what would you cut?
I cannot hear you.
Okay, if your office got a 5% decrease, what would you cut?
Hopefully, we would not have to cut anything, but looking at the system, we would cut wherever there would be for where we're doing the most of the circuit system, whereas the county could not have to invest in much money. So making sure that we have electronic systems, if it's much in using it, finding a way to have accurate information process system is more important.
Lori Grubbs, same question.
That is a very tough question to answer. If I had to have a 5% decrease, we don't have a lot of overtime at the circuit clerk's office, but there are times when clerks stay late for jury trials, or if a civil case is running late. There are clerks that could get overtime. I would have to maybe have somebody comp their time. Currently in the clerk's office, we're not doing that, but I would make those changes because it is important to have the clerk's office staffed every single day, and it is important to have the technology that we use every single day to help the citizens of DeKalb County navigate their way through the court system.
Lori Grubbs, what do you bring to this office?
I bring to this office my experience and my leadership. With being at the clerk's office for 25 years, it is my home away from home. It is where I met my husband. It is where I call my second family. I bring to the table all of the knowledge that I have learned over the 25 years. I have my associate's degree from Kish, but there is no amount of a degree that you cannot learn what I've learned in 25 years.
RukishaCrawford, what do you bring to this office?
What I bring to this office is change, difference, a leader, advocate, a voice for community. I would like to improve by make sure they're accurate and efficient. What I bring to the table also is a passion for wanting to help serve the community, want to listen, make sure they understand the community and the residents of the community. What I also bring is quality, worthy confidence. I also bring accuracy and integrity and transparency. All these are qualities that the circuit clerk should have, and make sure they're building relationships, positive relationships within the community, within the circuit clerk as well, making sure you have a relationship with each clerk, making sure they're accountable for their actions, making sure they're accountable for their work, and make sure that they are all building relationships with the people they're working with as well. Thank you so much.
So we're up to our closing statements. RukishaCrawford, would you go first? 1 minute, please.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. A little nervous, a little shy, a little afraid. I just thank you for this time opportunity. Share my platform here. Thank you for opening the platform for League of Women to this opportunity to share why we're running, why we're passionate, why we care, why we change. One of the reasons why I'm running is changing the mindsets of DeKalb County. 25 years and 35 years, we've had no diversity. I like to bring some diversity where we have effective, efficient clerk office. We can hold each other accountable, where we can build relationships, and we can continue to serve the community of DeKalb County. I thank you for the opportunity to share my platform here, that I'm passionate for the change in leadership and working through, make sure that we are running a efficient, fair, and awesome circular. I just want to say again, thank you for your vote November 3rd.
Thank you. Lori Grubbs, your closing statement, 1 minute.
Thank you again for the opportunity to speak tonight. My goal is to continue to focus on public service, transparency, and access to the courts for all who use it. I will also focus on using technology to better the circuit clerk's office. I have the experience and the leadership that is needed to run the circuit clerk's office. I ask for your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes the DeKalb Circuit Clerk position. The next race is DeKalb County Coroner. And our two candidates are Dennis Miller and Kat Prescott. So Dennis Miller, would you like to give your 2-minute opening statement?
Sure. Number one, good evening. And first of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and DeKalb Public Library for arranging tonight's forum. It's truly unfortunate that we cannot be in person, but due to, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic, unfortunately, everything has changed our world. My name is Denny Miller. I'm a lifelong resident of DeKalb County. My wife Jill and I live in Sandwich. We've been married for 38 years. We have 3 amazing children: Jordan, his wife Sarah, Brandon, his wife Ashley, and our lovely daughter Brianna and her fiance Derek Morris. I started with the DeKalb County Coroner's Office as a deputy coroner in 1979. I was appointed coroner in January of 1984. I ran in 1984 elections and won. I've ran every 4 years thereafter. I've attended thousands and thousands of hours of forensic death investigation seminars over the years. I am seeking re-election in November to continue my service to all of the citizens of DeKalb County. I have worked hard over the years to make the coroner's office much more efficient and cost-effective. I am the only candidate who has the experience, training, and knowledge to be your coroner. My years of experience have allowed me to cultivate a vast network of constituents and colleagues throughout our state and our great nation. I'm honored and humbled to be considered for re-election on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Kat Prescott, your 2-minute opening statement, please.
Hello, I'm Kat Bryan Prescott, and I would like to bring a fresh perspective to the position of coroner. Many of you I've spoken to are not only surprised that coroner is an elected position, but are surprised that there's an aspect of the job that is political. And for most of us, the job isn't particularly political. However, every citizen will eventually have to expect their own or a loved one's passing. And I want to ensure that every person who moves through the office of the coroner is treated with the same level of respect and dignity we all deserve. As a transgender person, I know that the circumstances of death can include issues of human rights and respect, and it's my goal to bring that to this position, a role that has not been reinvigorated over 30 years. As far as specific policy is concerned, I believe that there is a strong aspect of the coroner's work that is protective, supportive, and preventative. As coroner, I will make it a point to invest in public health initiatives to help DeKalb County citizens live stronger, healthier, and more fulfilling lives. I am committed to education on issues of health, death planning, and the methods of assistance available to those without an excess of means. Furthermore, I acknowledge that we are a community, and this office both serves and works for this community. I will ensure that those services the coroner's offices use will be fairly distributed among our community businesses, keeping more of our budget here in our county.
Thank you. Kat Prescott, if your office got a 5% budget decrease, what would you cut?
Every service is stretched thin, fairly well funded. However, there are a few inherent reductions available just in my own demographics. Notably, I can reduce the expenditure on transportation, but the most important way to reduce costs is seeking partnerships that reduce duplication of activities.
Thank you. Dennis Miller, same question.
Thank you. My budget is a very, very bare bones budget. As far as saving the taxpayers' money, I have saved the taxpayers of DeKalb County over $600,000 since 1992 by doing my own body transport, by transporting the human remains of the loved ones who have died within this county. I've got documented proof of that. I hire only the best forensic pathologists there are in the country. And I would think that the people of DeKalb County would think that'd be an asset.
Thank you. Dennis Miller, what technology, if any, does the coroner's office most need to implement best practices?
I think we're really ahead of the curve. The only thing that I could think of is possibly improving the morgue. Just a couple of years ago, the county board chairman came to my office when they were talking about expanding the county jail. I said, you know what? That's a great idea. If the funds are available, we'd like to expand the morgue and make it more efficient. But I understand that it costs money and we can do without. So we are doing without. The current jail, or I'm sorry, the current morgue was built when the older jail was built back in 1982, I believe it was. And we're making with what's due.
Thank you. Kat Prescott, what technology, if any, does the coroner's office most need to implement best practices?
Well, certainly I would like to expand the refrigeration space at the police department to prevent misfortune in emergency situations. I would also like to, but I feel that the most important things we have in our office are the professionals we work with. I would want to increase the mental health insurance budgets for death professionals working with our office, in case we see a lot of ugly things that come through. So it's best to keep people working to their peak efficiency by taking care of them.
Thank you. Kat Prescott, if your office got a 5% budget increase, what would you spend it on?
Aiming at funding at fair compensation for those services provided by community businesses, and a long-term project toward expanding the needed refrigeration as stated. I'd also like to, sorry, frog in my throat. It is also my goal to fund a small annual scholarship for DeKalb County residents who wish to enter death care professions.
Thank you. Dennis Miller, what would you do with a 5% budget increase?
Well, number one, refrigeration is very, very inexpensive to do. And the purpose of the coroner's office is to determine the manner and cause of death and take care of those in need. As far as the scholarship, that's great, but that's also very, very expensive. I don't have the manpower to take care of that type of a program, and I don't think the county board. My budget comes out of the general fund of the county budget, and the county board wants to the county wants to cut funds, not give you more. So you have to do what's got to be done first before you expand the services.
Thank you. Dennis Miller, name something specific that the coroner's office could do better and how to do it.
Like I said earlier, we could expand the morgue situation. We don't have a viewing room, a proper viewing room for the deceased. What we make do with what we have. That'd be ideal to have a family room, but again, it takes funds. And I'm a taxpayer along with a lot of other people. And there are other things in the county, be it mental health, be it law enforcement, be it state attorney's office, be it health department, et cetera. And we do with what we have available to us.
Kat Prescott, same question.
What do I think we could do better? I think we could be more involved with the health department. We can move forward into the area of perhaps helping prevent death to DeKalbians. We can expand our education programs.
Kat Prescott, what do you bring to this office?
I know I'm newer to this sort of work, but I also bring new ways of thinking by my background in community service, education, and my involvement in a multitude of diverse communities. My personal experience as a recovering disabled person. As a part of my commitment to this work, as stated, it is my goal to fund a small annual scholarship to DeKalb County residents out of my own salary. Your vote is an engagement with difficult subjects, and for that, I thank you. It's very hard to talk about this during this time of COVID. I hope we can embrace our futures together and go forward from here.
Thank you. Dennis Miller, same question. What do you bring to the office?
Honesty, integrity, professionalism, and dignity. As far as working with the health department, since the COVID outbreak started back in March, I have supplied the health department with thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment for PPE for our firefighters, our first responders, our health professionals throughout the country, throughout this county. That's where it's at. I work for the people.
Thank you. Kat Prescott, could we have your 1-minute closing statement?
As stated, this is a very hard time for all of us. And death is definitely on our minds. It is a concern. And the best way we can handle this is to talk about it, to understand it, and to have a better relationship with it. Your vote is an engagement with these difficult subjects, and I thank you. I also want to thank the Women Voters League for putting this on, and thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for engaging. I'll see you on November 3rd.
Thank you. Dennis Miller, your 1-minute closing statement, please.
I think my track record speaks for itself. I'm there day in and day out. It's not a 9-to-5 job. I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning, working since this morning since that's when my day started at 4 o'clock this morning, and I'm not done yet. That's a typical day for the coroner. All the calls come into me after hours and on weekends. If I'm not around, I have 5 outstanding deputy coroners who are excellent. They're very, very qualified. I have a fantastic secretary. I also share my office with the Emergency Services and Disaster Agency. So like I said, it's not a 9-to-5 job. I'm a very dedicated individual, and I'm here for you. I'm always available. My commitment has always been care of the deceased and concern for the living.
Thank you. That ends our events for tonight. For more information, please visit the nonpartisan website, illinoisvoterguide.org, powered by the League of Women Voters of Illinois. We appreciate your participation, whether you are a candidate or a voter. It is essential to preserve our freedom and our country. Please remember to vote, whether it is by vote by mail, early voting, or on election day. Thank you all.
Thank you.